Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday, the third day of November. Here we go. Yesterday we had explained to you how when a knife presses against something like a radish, so there's two things happening there. There's the sharpness of the knife and the sharp taste of the radish, and together they are pretty potent together, and they can make the radish bring out the, let's say if that was a fleshig knife, then the radish together with the press of the knife can help bring the old meat taste out of the knife and make that radish into a fleshig radish, just because the knife, even though it's cold, sliced against the side of that radish. That was yesterday's law. And typically that kind of powerful transformation of having the meat jump into the other food even though the two just touched each other cold is usually only said when it's a sharp tasting item like a radish, also coupled together with the fact that a knife is pressing strongly against that sharp tasting thing. And that's why in yesterday's law, a fleshig knife cutting through a radish could, even though they're both cold, could make that radish become a fleshig radish. Okay, in today's halacha we're now going to explore how sometimes, even without the sharpness of a knife, the sharpness of the taste of the item can possibly wreak some havoc on your kashrus situation. Let's go right to the example that's going to make it much more clear. Horseradish. Horseradish in your jar on your Shabbos table is a very sharp tasting item. That's horseradish, you know that. And if you were to put a spoon, and let's say it was a fleshig spoon, and you were going to put it into the horseradish to dole out some horseradish onto some other foods, so there's no press of the knife there. There's just a cold spoon gently touching the horseradish, and no transfer of the fleshicness of the spoon should get into the horseradish because there's no press of the knife, right? So it shouldn't really matter if I put a cold fleshig knife into the horseradish jar or if I put a cold milchik knife, dairy knife, into the horseradish jar, because there's no press of the knife and everything's cold and no big transfers should happen. However, there are some poskim that say that a davar harif, something sharp tasting like horseradish, can cause, when it's moist, and that's what horseradish is, it's moist, can cause some taste transfer to happen, and therefore you'd have to watch out for it. Let's get to specific, then it always makes more sense. That would mean that if you were at your Shabbos table and someone wanted to spoon out some meat, some horseradish onto their meat, and they said, "Oh, just get me any spoon. I don't even care if it's a dairy spoon. It's a cold spoon and it's cold horseradish and I'm just spooning it onto the meat." But according to some of the poskim, you'd have to watch out for this because the horseradish is moist and sharp tasting, and it could draw out some of the dairy flavor that might be in that spoon and bring it into the meat through the horseradish. And so in short, just in case I'm confusing you, the simple way to say today's halacha is, if you're at a meat meal and you want to spoon out some horseradish onto your meat, it's best if you use a fleshig spoon. And similarly, if you're at a dairy meal and you want to spoon out some horseradish onto your dairy food, it's best if you use a dairy spoon, because the sharpness of the horseradish can cause some taste transfer, and also the moistness together with the sharpness can help that transfer happen. Especially, I just want to add, sometimes somebody might carelessly leave the spoon sitting in the horseradish for a while, and that ramps up the possibility that some food transfer happens. So certainly, if you're going to have that spoon sit in the horseradish for 10 minutes or more, then you got to watch out that dairy, let's say that dairy spoon, could be imparting some of its dairy flavor into that horseradish, which could then be going onto your meat. So look out. Generally, again, because it could have sounded complicated, today's halacha boils down to one simple thing. When spooning out horseradish for a meat meal, use a meat spoon. When spooning out horseradish for a dairy meal, use a dairy spoon. And a parv spoon would be fine in these situations, totally. But just watch out, because sharp items, especially when they're moist, can transfer taste from the utensil, of which could have been dairy, onto the food, which could have been meat, and that could cause a problem. Hope I didn't confuse you. Thanks for logging on, and log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.